Good morning. I want to thank everybody again for joining us at stewardshipforwork.com as we build this valuable library of information for young people to help them determine how to find their something. We have in our studio today Mr. Lamont Dupree from the author of Go Do Your Something, president of stewardshipforwork.com, and also just a good friend of mine, Lamont. How's everything going with you, sir?
Everything is good, man. How's everything with you?
Good, good. It's been an interesting week. We're sheltering in place here. And so as we shelter in place, things are a little bit different. A lot more online meetings, Zoom, and things like that. What we're going to talk about today is something very important when it comes to understanding and determining where you need to go to college. If you're planning to go to college, how do you determine what college to go to? And so Lamont's going to give us some insight on his experience and what he's learned, how to come up with ways that are best for you in terms of where you should attend college. Lamont, talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, I mean, one of the things I would, first of all, would say, for me, when I was getting ready to decide, when I was deciding about college, one of the things that was a challenge was where to go. I knew, and I'd like to think that I knew all things college before I went to college, but I didn't know. I pretended like I knew and, made it, I hung out with friends that everybody was going to college. And so I knew that college was not an option, but, I didn't have a whole lot of conversations with my parents about college per se. I mean, we had on and off conversations, but it wasn't a whole lot of talk about where. But I knew that I didn't want to stay home. I knew that I wanted to, go away. My sister she had already left for school. I graduated high school in 90. My sister graduated in 88, a couple of years before. So I knew of the college that she went to, and I was honestly pretty sure that I was just going to follow her. But it was an interesting time because, like I said, even though I did well in school, I knew a lot. I kind of thought I knew what I wanted to do with my life. College and where to go was just kind of an enigma, to be honest. I actually applied to two different schools. One was Morehouse College in Atlanta and Oakwood College in Huntsville, Alabama. And that's where my sister went. And so I applied to Morehouse and got accepted, and it was a very prestigious kind of thing to be accepted into Morehouse because it's a school that's kind of like I guess it's an all male, black male school, and so it was very prestigious to go there. And I just wanted to see really if I could get accepted. So that's really the biggest reason I applied. And I had some other friends that were attending Spelman, which was the all-female college, very prestigious. And they were going, that was right around the corner. So I was like, if I went, we could still hang out and that kind of thing. So that was basically what went into my decision-making as far as schools were concerned. So, you have to kind of think about, what you want to do. I mean, that's going to be, of course, one of the drivers in terms of, where you go. Because if your major is not at that particular school, then either you're going to go there, get a degree that's not going to put you on a path to where you want to go, or you're going to go there and have to transfer. And, that's a whole nother thing. And it's not impossible, but you got to decide, make some decisions from there.
Now, Lamont, back in 1990, the internet was just beginning to come on the scene. So we have the internet now. So yes. It's a lot different in terms of making decisions.
Yeah.
How would the internet play? What resources would you recommend someone now make a decision? Because back then, without the internet, I mean, what do you do?
Man, you had to go in books. You had to look in books, man, and trust the word of mouth from people and go visit. And so it was a lot more legwork to actually find out about schools. And, you had college fairs and that kind of thing where students would come and talk to you about certain they talk to you about their school and you could go and visit. So, I mean, and that still goes on. But yeah, the internet is definitely, a friend. You want to research, based on location. That's a huge thing. How close do you want to be to mom and them? How far away do you want to be? And a lot of students, they're like, I don't want to go that far. And they want to, or you got to decide whether or not you want to work. Do you want to work while you're in school? Um, one thing, and you also have to consider, do I want to stay in on-campus housing? Those are things you have to kind of consider because, you know, it's ideally college is not just to get a degree. College is also for you to learn to be independent, to learn just some final steps before you actually have to get out there into the real world. And, so those kind of things, you got to do your own laundry. You got to kind of navigate the whole getting up in the morning by yourself thing. Those kind of things you want to learn so that when you get out into the world and start getting a job and that kind of thing, you kind of learn some of those things. So those things, and you can find out a lot of that on the internet now. Students will post about their experiences. You can kind of see the rating. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it can be too much information, but use your resources and go to those. We talked about college fairs. Those are good as well. Most schools and school systems have college fairs. The schools come and visit, and you can talk to them about stuff.
So how do you decide whether to stay in state or to go out of state? Is it all about financial? Who's going to need the most money, or is it about how close it is to you? How do you make those kind of decisions?
Well, I think it goes to your which definitely plays finances play a lot into that. Obviously, you've got to make a decision about how much you want to pay, excuse me, and how much your parents can pay, or your guardians, if they can pay anything. And generally, out of state tuition, I was from South Carolina, I went to a school in Alabama. For us, the tuition difference wasn't that great because it was a private school. And so the tuition difference wasn't that great. But a lot of your public schools will have a substantial difference in tuition. So if you were to, you lived in California and you wanted to go to school in South Carolina, then there may be a substantial difference in out of state versus in state tuition, because what the belief is that the taxpayers of that particular state have paid into the system. And so, if you're coming out of state, then you're going to pay a premium for attending that school. So you want to look at that and decide whether or not it's something that you can afford. Because, I mean, if you get a full ride scholarship and it's out of state, then it really doesn't matter. You can go and, make that decision to go to that school if that's where you really want to go.
I guess, too, now that they have universities online, you can actually get a degree without going anywhere other than your bedroom with the internet. How does that play in terms of young people deciding maybe I'm going to work and get a degree online? Talk a little bit about that option.
Yeah, and that's a good point. A lot of schools are doing online. You can get a whole degree online. And I guess it just plays into, again, you're right. If you want to work and you want to have that flexibility, some schools will have it where you may have classes online where you can actually see the instructor, where you're sitting in your home or wherever and able to interact a little bit more, but you're not in a traditional classroom in a desk. Or they just put content out there and you can interact with the professor, asking questions via, chat or email. And, for your average student coming out of high school, that is an option. I'm not a fan of that option because I think that, the socialization that you get from being in a classroom and being able to sit in a classroom and talk to a professor and kind of interact with friends and people in your class, I think that's just key in terms of learning teamwork. It's something that you're going to need to do, and just learning social skills that a lot of students know they don't get oftentimes because of this media savvy world they're supposed that they live in. But it's an option. It's an option. I think you just have to kind of decide how you want to, what do you want your college life to look like? Um, and so that is an option. And a lot of schools are putting it out there where you can get your whole degree
Yeah,
online, your undergrad.
right, right. I know here in Huntsville, Alabama, where you have public school system
Mm-hmm.
will allow kids from first grade to high school. They give you a tablet, a laptop, and say, "Hey, we want you to start learning online because this is the future." And so a lot of kids here in this community is growing up thinking, "Hey, everything is online. I have access to education online." And so it's important, but you're also saying there's some other skill sets you can develop when you get ready to college,
Right.
socialization, being able to relate to people, those
Right.
kind of things that's going to help you when you get ready to look for a job. If you've been around behind a computer all your life, you have been communicating with people, then when you get to that opportunity where people are maybe managing you, people you have to work in a
Right.
team, you have not developed that experience yet. So there's some things that you get from actually attending a college that you will not get from actually being online. But it might cost you a little bit. You might have more flexibility by getting it online.
Right.
And sometimes you can get it, you might be able to get it quicker online too. If you're super smart, you're super talented,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't care that the fact that you're gonna be around people, you're not worried about that. You got a family that you're gonna be around. You can still go online and basically get your degree maybe in a quicker period of time that it's going to take because they don't. You work as your own pace, so you can really get in there and get it done and move on. It might not cost you as much. That is an option,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you
And
need to
that,
have yeah, you need to have conversations with different people, with parents, people like Lamont Dupree. That can help you make those decisions. Which one's going to be better for you? Go ahead.
right. And like I said, now we talked in the previous session, you know, everybody doesn't have to go to college, but everybody needs to be educated. And so it just depends on to what you're striving to do, what degree, what career, what is your something, what is the thing that you are called to do, and what is the training involved to get to that point. And so you know that has to be a driver of that. And of course at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, ideally you want to have had that conversation with God and kind of say, okay, where do you want me to go to school? Because I've seen students that have gone away to college and you know they went away from home for the first time and they lost their minds and they ended up in trouble and they it wasn't a good thing where they were not able to finish school because of the path and decisions that they made. And so that has a plan to it as well. I think maturity has a plan to how far you go, what type of school. Because if you go to a school that, you know, is an open school, you know, co-ed situations and that kind of thing, you know, that could be a determinant. I know for me, one of the reasons I tell myself anyway that I didn't go to Morehouse was that you know it wasn't you know it wasn't a it was a private school, but it wasn't necessarily it didn't have the religious spiritual foundation that the school I ended up in at Oakwood that I ended up going to did. And I just see myself, it was in a large city. And that's again, I think about that. So in a large city is around other college campuses. And, you know, people, you know, it was a place where you had, you know, freedom and you had a lot of options. And I was a dude coming from a little small town and I could just see myself being in the bigger city, just like, man, this is, this is good. And, and, so I think it was a positive thing that I made the decision. Again, you got to look at that and decide based on what you want ultimately. And so I saw the benefit of going to a smaller campus. I think we had maybe 1,400 students at the time total, and it was, you know, like I said, it had a kind of a spiritual foundation. It was a school based on a denomination, and so you had to do worships. You were encouraged to go to church, and there were some things you had to do that you wouldn't do at other schools. And so, not to say there weren't temptations there and things to get into and people didn't get in trouble. Yes, they did, but for me, I was able to have some other options and get around people that were making positive decisions. And so it was just my decision to, you know, what set of friends was I going to hang out with? And I think that plays a role into it as well.
Yeah, I think socialization is important. I know when you talk about Morehouse, that is a prestigious national black HBCU, you know, and I understand that Denzel Washington, his son, went to Morehouse. There's a lot of people send their kids to Morehouse, so you can get caught up. That's a big decision. So a lot of times, if you're going out of state and you're on a scholarship,
right,
you got to stay focused. You can't
right,
go over there
exactly,
having fun and get lost in what's happening socialization that you
exactly,
don't keep your grades, because if you don't keep your grades up, you can lose your scholarship, and that
right,
means you're on your own. So
right,
if you're a kid that's going to college on a scholarship, you got to really be focused to make sure that you're going to keep those grades where they need to be, because your scholarship is being paid
yep,
by your
yep.
ability to focus. Yeah.
And one thing that you can do now, and you talked about the internet at the beginning of this, you can, you know, it's crazy because you can see schools rated as party schools and not party schools. So if you, you know, if you want to just, you know, find the party school, and you'll talk to students and say, oh yeah, that's a party school. And so you got to make a decision whether or not that's the environment you want to find yourself in. Is that, you know, do you see yourself being able to focus and do what you need to do in that environment? Some schools allow alcohol on campus, some don't. Some schools will have a certain curfew, some don't. And some of those schools just to see you as an adult, and so they don't set any boundaries. And some schools do. Do you need boundaries? When we were sending our son, my son is now a junior. He just finished up his sophomore year, which is really crazy. But he just finished up his sophomore year. And, you know, one of the decisions that we had going into it was, and it was his decision, but he knew he wanted to go to a smaller school. He knew he wanted to go to an HBCU, which stands for Historically Black College or University. And so that narrowed his choices. He was initially going to go away to school at Tuskegee in another part of Alabama. But ultimately, he decided to go to Oakwood University, which just happened to be my alma mater, but that wasn't why he chose it. There were some other factors that really, he made a decision, and it's been a good decision for him. And it had his major, had what he needed as far as, and he stays on campus. So even though it's not too far away, he stays on campus, and it's been a positive situation for him. But again, it's not for everybody. And I would not tell everybody that, one school is just the end of all schools for you to go. And I would encourage students not to go to a school based simply on legacy. What I mean by that is my parents went there and their parents' parents went there. And, so I got to go there. That, be cautious of that. I know that there's some perks to legacy, but, you got to make a decision, because if your major is not there and that's not where your heart is, you can make a different decision than based on just solely my parents went there.
Right. I know a lot of parents, I call them helicopter parents. When it comes down to that negative scene, they might say, you might want to go to another college, but my money's going to my alma mater.
Right.
So if
you you hear that. Yes.
And you want your college paid for, you will go to this school. So the kid is like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that
and
legacy thing is real.
It is real. It is real. And
so you have to make a decision. Do I want to just get this paid for and then later on do what I want to do?
Right.
But young people have to make some really positive decisions. Before we close, Mike, is there any other things on your mind in terms of determining where to attend, in-state, out-of-state, online, making sure that you do have a scholarship? Are you following the money because that school is going to pay everything, or do you need to be somewhere closer where you're around family and friends, more spiritual environment? How to wrap this all up? Give us your final thoughts on where to go to college.
I would say, definitely you have to look at tuition and costs. What can you afford to do? Then once you kind of go from there, look at the schools that you're interested in terms of proximity to your home. Look at that. You want to look at, again, the overall environment of the school itself, kind of decide, what type of school you want to go to. What size of school would you like to go to? Do you want to go to a private school versus public school? Do you want to go to a school where you can continue to follow the same path that you did as far as your personal decision making, or do you want to go to one that gives you more freedom? Those things I would do, and then at the, like I said, with prayer and with conversations with parents or guardians or mentors, make a decision and go. And you can, and one thing that's key is that you can, if that doesn't work out, you can transfer to another situation if that one doesn't work. That's not the best decision, but you can do that if it doesn't work out.
Right, don't give up, keep trying. Okay, Lamont,
no, you got to keep going.
Yeah, thanks a lot so much for that insight. We just had a 10-minute chat with Lamont Dupree, author of Go Do Your Something, helping young people decide to find their gifts and their passion and abilities. Here at stewardshipofwealth.com, we believe that it doesn't matter if you earn $5,000 a year, $50,000 a year, or even $500,000 a year. We believe that you can become a better steward of your wealth. And we define wealth holistically, not just your money, but also your time, how you spend your time, how you managing your time in terms of wishes and your goals and aspirations. Also your talents, your gifts and abilities. You're able to walk into your gifts and understand what God has put inside you to shape you to do. So again, thank you so much. Keep praying, keep believing with God. All things are possible.